Yo, what's up, guys? Today we're diving into one of the wildest glow-ups I've ever seen in a manga. If you love insane power-ups, mystery cubes, and a dude who accidentally becomes the chosen knight of a dead legend, yeah, you're gonna love this one. And hey, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the next insane recap. And seriously, go support the official manga. This story deserves your money. The kid runs forward, breathing hard. Behind him, someone slams a kick into the ground, breaking the dirt and sending debris flying. He halts in the rocky area, panting. His face tightens in shock and frustration. Then he moves again across the rough ground. Creatures step out of the darkness behind him, closing in from every side. He stiffens, backing up with one hand raised as the monsters surround him. The monsters lunge at him, grabbing at his clothes as he shields himself and shouts for help. A hand cuts through the monsters, tearing them apart instantly. They look at the scene with zero concern, amused as they comment on how useless the boy is. The blonde guy smirks, glancing back at the boy struggling on the ground while he tells the others to ease up, clearly mocking him. The boy lowers his head while the group laughs behind him, pointing out his tiny mana and treating him like a nobody. He sits in front of them with a shaky smile, holding out a bowl of tea. He thanks them for stepping in and offers the drink, trying to be polite even after everything. The blonde guy grabs the cup, annoyed, narrowing his eyes as he reacts to whatever he noticed. The blonde guy waves the cup in his hand while the other two stand beside him, all three looking down on the boy sitting on the ground. The cup rolls across the dirt as the blonde guy steps forward, launching into one of his dramatic speeches. He talks about how, 20 years ago, strange cubes fell from the sky and humanity gained mana. The girls hype him up like he's some celebrity, while the boy sits stiff, caught in the middle of their excitement. He keeps talking with his back turned, saying the gods were cruel because they didn't give everyone equal strength. As he keeps talking, the boy is suddenly grabbed and held in place, the others shoving him forward while the speech continues about how the weak were created. He's thrown to the ground, shaking, while the blonde continues bragging. He holds up a magic stone and explains how people like them, high rankers, can just hunt monsters, sell the stones, and get rich fast. The blonde gets right in his face, yelling that weaklings like him shouldn't even try to fight. He tells the boy he'd be doing the world a favor by sticking to part-time jobs instead of pretending to be a hunter. The blonde leans back, smirking as he says he pities him. He reminds the boy that having almost no mana is already bad, and having a sick little sister on top of that drags him down even more. The blonde catches the boy's glare and immediately kicks him hard, knocking him down. He tells him that if he has the energy to stare, he should be out collecting magic stones instead. He curls up on the ground while massive cubes drift above, the same ones that appeared years ago. People turn them into dungeons and rank them by danger. This one is the weakest, an E rank. The boy mutters to himself about high rankers. The portal cracks open in the air, glitching as it expands. The blonde turns toward it with a casual, "Looks like we've got company," watching the distortion form without surprise. Guilds start forming, people organize raids, and the whole dungeon system becomes part of everyday life. Hunters, mana users, and raiders show up everywhere as magic stone tech advances. He's handed a small stack of bills, and the boy takes it with a shaky "thank you," clearly depending on every bit he can get. The blonde tosses the money away with a fake "whoops," making the bills scatter as the boy reacts. He drops to his knees, scrambling to grab the scattered bills. The blonde laughs, pretending to apologize while bragging that it's hard to control your strength when you've got mana. He bends forward, gripping the money, while the group behind him laughs as they walk away. He walks home clutching the money, expression empty as the sun sets. Climbing the stairs, he thinks that if a god existed, it never blessed people like him. He steps inside saying he's home, and his little sister rushes out with a bright smile, welcoming him back and calling for her big brother. She jumps out happily, showing him she can move and saying she feels great. He panics, calling her name and reminding her she's supposed to be resting. She suddenly loses her balance and collapses into his arms. He steadies her and asks if she's okay, telling her not to push herself. She gives him a soft smile, thanks him, and lets out a small laugh. He looks at her mark, the reminder of the sickness spreading through the world, a curse people call AMS, a mana-eating disease that slowly shuts the body down. When the cubes appeared, people awaken mana. Those with high mana got stronger bodies and real power. Those with almost none gain nothing. Just moving around drain them. AMS drains what little mana a person has until they can't move at all. There's no cure, only mana transfusions through blood. With AMS spreading, hospitals are overwhelmed. People fight over donor blood everywhere, desperate for mana transfusions. She notices the marks on his arm and reaches for him, surprised, telling him he's hurt. He looks back at her, caught off guard. He tries to brush it off, saying it's fine and he'll heal, but she insists, stepping closer and asking him to show the wound. She cleans his arm and points out how many cuts he has. He laughs it off, teasing that they're like badges of honor, saying he got them all for her. She smiles softly and thanks him for everything. He smiles back, trying to reassure her. He looks at the clock and announces he'll start dinner, saying he's grilling fish tonight. She immediately chimes in, excited to help. They sit together eating. She says the food is really good, smiling with her bowl. He laughs and reminds her to chew well and eat plenty. She holds out a bite of food with a big smile, telling him to eat too. Her hand suddenly trembles, and the food slips from her grasp, scattering across the table. She apologizes, trying to pick the food up, but he stops her and eats it anyway to calm her down. He smiles and tells her not to worry, saying the food is delicious. He sits up in bed, determined, telling himself he has to keep going. Her voice echoes in his mind as she gently calls him Big Brother. He watches her sleeping and tells himself he has no choice. People are still researching AMS, and someday they'll find a cure. Until then, he can't let her condition get worse. He looks ahead with resolve, saying he'll protect Nagi for their mom and dad. The blonde checks his phone and, without looking up, tells him he's fired. He steps toward them in confusion, asking why, but the blonde just smirks and repeats it like he's talking to someone deaf. The others laugh, mocking him and pointing out that even his rank must have dropped. He begs them not to cut him out, saying he'll do anything, but the blonde waves him off. He brags that they're aiming higher and can't drag an unranked loser with them. The blonde brushes him off completely, saying he doesn't need him. He points to two muscular hunters nearby and says he'd rather team up with real strength than waste time carrying dead weight. The blonde ends it with a smirk, telling him to quit dungeons and just go work a part-time job. He grabs the blonde in desperation, shouting that he needs the money and that his sister depends on it. The blonde shoves him away with a furious strike, yelling that he doesn't care. The blonde looks down at him with a cold grin, saying he'll die in a dungeon or on the street. It makes no difference. Then he tells him to get lost. Two guys approach him, hesitating as they try to get his attention, unsure how to start. He lowers his head and quietly asks if he can go with them into the dungeon. One of them takes his card and asks for his rank, studying it with a serious look. The adventurer hands the card back without a second thought and tells him to scram. He keeps moving, frustrated but still pushing forward. He walks up to the front desk, straight to the point, asking if there's any party out there recruiting. He asks at the reception if there's any team taking new members, but the receptionist gives him an apologetic look. She tells him that with his rank, no party is willing to accept him, and all she can offer is a quiet, "I'm sorry." He begs, saying he'll do anything, even just carry luggage, but she bows her head again and gives the same answer, "I'm sorry." He drags himself home at sunset, exhausted. The moment he steps inside, Nagi lights up, rushing to him with a bright smile and calling, "Welcome back, Big Brother." He walks in worn out. Nagi jumps on him, says he worked hard, and smiles saying he got home early. He shows off the loot with a smile, bragging that he cleared the dungeon fast. Nagi watches, impressed, calling it amazing. They knock him down and call him useless. Say an unranked like him is just trash. Another kick drops him again. He stays on the ground while they walk off. He asks again, but the receptionist apologizes and tells him there are no teams taking anyone. He lowers his head in silence. He walks alone, drowning in the voices calling him dead weight, trash, a parasite, low mana garbage. Every rejection piles up in his head, dragging him down as he sits there, exhausted and empty. She looks at him, worried, her voice trembling as she calls out to her big brother. He's slumped, and she asks if he's working again. He just says, "Yeah," and she quietly asks if it has to be today too. She tells him he's been working every day, her voice soft and worried. He stays silent, avoiding her eyes. She tries to cheer him up, asking if he wants to play cards or take a break. He snaps, yelling at her to just go to sleep. He turns on her, shouting that he runs around every day for her, and if she really cares, she should just shut up and sleep. She freezes, shocked. He turns away, shaken. She tries to apologize, her hand trembling, but he cuts her off, insisting it's fine. He hears the clerk tell him there are no new openings. He forces a quiet, "Thank you," and walks off. 3 weeks pass with him searching nonstop for a team, and he still hasn't found a single lead. He glances at a part-time job listing, wondering if he should give up, but he shuts the thought down. He needs money fast, and the only way to pay for Nagi's treatment is by clearing cubes. He walks up to the bakery, eyeing the cakes. He quietly asks for 2, clutching the money he managed to save. On his way home, he hesitates and switches the cake he picked, choosing the cheaper one before walking inside and saying he's back. He walks in forcing a smile, showing the box and telling Nagi he brought her favorite strawberry shortcake. He steps into the room and instantly freezes. It's way too quiet. He calls for Nagi, but there's no answer. His eyes go wide when he sees Nagi collapsed on the floor. He shouts her name and rushes toward her, panic hitting instantly. He lifts Nagi and yells for help, running outside. An ambulance rushes in, sirens blaring. The medics take one look at her and call it a critical AMS case before loading her in for emergency transport. Doctors hold him back as the staff rush Nagi down the hall. He runs up to the surgery room and shouts for the surgeon as the doctor steps out. He grabs the surgeon, desperate, demanding to know how Nagi is. The surgeon explains calmly that Nagi's condition has gotten worse, and she's entered phase 3 of AMS. The surgeon tells him straight, Nagi won't wake up again. The boy collapses as the truth hits. He begs the surgeon for any chance to save Nagi, but the surgeon stays silent, already knowing there's nothing left to do. The surgeon explains they can only keep Nagi alive on machines, and even that won't last long because the donated blood is almost gone. He hears the doctor lay it out with zero sugarcoating. No cure in sight. Nobody knows when one might appear, and even getting treatment costs a ridiculous amount of money. He stands by Nagi's bed as the doctor drops the number cold, 10 million. No build-up, no comfort, just the price he'll need to save her. He sits alone, breaking down. His parents are gone, Nagi's dying, and he asks why everything keeps hitting him. He collapses, shaking, hands over his face. His mind spirals fast. After losing his parents, now Nagi too? It hits him all at once. She was the last thing he was holding on to, and now it feels like even that's slipping away. He sits beside Nagi's bed, completely drained. The TV suddenly blasts a breaking news alert, pulling his attention toward the screen. He stands next to Nagi as the TV drops a breaking news alert. The reporter says something wild just went down in Shibuya. The first ever golden cube popped up right in the middle of the street, shining like crazy. The TV cuts to the press conference. President Riwenji Kagetora steps up, adjusts the mic, and announces it. Joining the association now costs 5 million, with extra fees on top. The chairman steps up to the mic and goes straight to the point. The golden cube is the priority, and the association is opening a special recruitment for a vanguard team. He makes it clear he'll be the one overseeing everything, and the crowd reacts fast. Everyone wants in. The association's president looks at everyone with this intense grin. He says that this time, there are 0 requirements. Anyone can join. He hears the announcement and lowers his head, locked in. That spark of courage hits him hard. It's the only thing he's got left. He hears the announcement and thinks this might finally be his shot. He mutters something about a hand of God and gives a small grin, ready for whatever comes next. He checks the info on the golden cube. It's unknown. Barely anyone comes back alive. He gets that stepping in is basically a one-way ticket to death. He thinks fast. Just walking in already nets him 5 million. That alone changes everything. He locks up, stressing out. The math hits him hard. If he makes it out alive, he walks away with 10 million. He looks at the unconscious Nagi, clenches his jaw, and stands up. No fear, no doubt. He stares ahead and says he's doing it. Whatever it takes, he's in. He locks his eyes on the cubes and stops hesitating. He pulls up his hoodie like he's suiting up for a fight and decides he's done playing it safe. He's going after that 10 million, no matter how rigged the world feels. He swears he'll survive and come back. He stares at the gate, locked in. He'll fight to the end, no matter what, with one thing on his mind, saving Nagi. He looks at Nagi lying unconscious with the mask, completely still. He stares at her and, determined, thinks only one thing. He's going to save her. Her eye trembles, and a tear runs down her face behind the oxygen mask. People start showing up from all sides, each with their own reason. The golden cube appears in the center. News spreads fast. The kid locks eyes on it. 22 challengers gather at the scene. He looks at the TV as black and white static flashes on screen. The report says that out of the 22 who went into the golden cube, only 2 made it out alive. He walks through the crowd while everyone hypes up the golden cube registration. People shout, wave flyers, and brag about the supplies they brought. Tons of pumped-up adventurers everywhere. He just moves straight through the chaos. The kid gets in line, and that blonde guy's crew surrounds him right away. They glare at him, talk trash, and mock his name like it's a joke. The blonde guy's crew closes in. The blonde grabs him by the collar, laughs, and mocks him, asking if he found another host. The rest step up too, staring him down and piling on the taunts. The crew steps in closer, and the blonde dude says they're heading into that golden cube that showed up yesterday. He steps forward and shouts that he's going too, declaring he's entering the golden cube while the other guy turns his back to leave. The guy turns around with a stiff face, eyes wide open, completely shocked by what he just heard. The blonde nails him with a clean punch, sending the kid flying back hard. The blonde guy grabs him and punches him hard. The boy is thrown back, gasping. The blonde spits insults, calling him a parasite and saying he should die. Someone yells for him to stop. A woman steps forward, pointing at the 2 boys on the floor. She shouts at them to stop and orders both to step back immediately. The group realizes the newbie is a woman. They freak out instantly, whispering that this is going to cause trouble. The blonde guy walks away annoyed. He calls the boy trash and tells him to at least act as a shield. He reaches toward the woman's hand, shaken. She leans in slightly, checking on him. He mutters a weak, "Thank you." He looks at her hand. She smiles and asks if he's entering the golden cube. He nods slightly and asks what she's planning to do. He kneels in front of her. She quietly says no and looks down. He's confused, and she admits she can't fight. The girl, Aya, turns toward the man entering and answers him when he calls out to her. He watches Aya leave after wishing him good luck. He thinks about it, realizing she doesn't fight either, and wonders if she's just as unranked as he is. He stands tense, thinking to himself that an unranked nobody entering an uncharted cube is basically suicide. He remembers his sister lying in that hospital bed, breathing through the machines. The officials on stage thank all the volunteers. The crowd goes quiet as the announcement praises everyone willing to risk their lives stepping into an unknown dungeon. Tanaka Issei steps up, yelling his name and title as Avalon's Vice Guild Master. The crowd reacts fast, some shocked, some hyped, hearing that Japan's top guild is leading the vanguard. Soldiers stand behind him, adding even more pressure. The unranked boy watches all this, realizing today's raid is on a whole different level. The group listens as the order is given, fight together and adjust on the way. Another voice reminds everyone they came for one goal, clear the cube. The last message hits harder, fight well and come back alive. The order echoes. The vanguard is told to enter the golden cube. A man holds a cube in his hand while looking out the window. Someone behind him asks if they really don't need to go. He holds the cube in his hand and says there's nothing that needs cleaning up. Then he adds that there's no reason for the archbishops to get involved. A figure agrees, saying as you wish. They add that if the people they sent clear the dungeon, that's even better. They look at the golden cube from afar and ask, but that golden cube, what sleeps inside it? 2 figures stand in front of a large window. One of them questions the so-called cube, trying to understand what people are calling it now. The other answers bluntly, saying it's nothing more than a box with another name. He looks at the cube while the voice explains that a box only exists to protect something precious. Tanaka looks around the room as the vanguard steps inside. He realizes they're finally standing inside the golden cube. They enter the cube. The boy looks around, confused, asking if they're really inside. The others scan the strange walls, surprised by how different this cube is from the usual ones. He looks around the empty structure, confused, noting that the cube has no doors and no paths. The group spreads out as Tanaka orders them to stay alert and start the sweep, convinced the cube must have some hidden mechanism. The group pushes deeper into the cube until they stop in front of a shattered wall covered in symbols. One of them says it looks like some kind of mural, and everyone just stares at the weird drawings all over it. He studies the mural quietly. Then he focuses on the details, thinking it might be some kind of code. He studies the mural split into 3 parts. The first shows monsters and humans at war. The second shows an angel charging at a knight. The third is so wrecked you can barely tell what it was. He looks at the angel mural up top, sees the 3 broken scenes below it, and notices a cube drawn to the side. He stares at the cracked symbol, an eye inside a triangle. He recognizes it, remembering seeing that same emblem on TV. He looks at the symbol and recognizes it. The man beside him explains fast. It's the Eye of Providence, the so-called all-seeing eye. The 3 of them stop in front of the mural, trying to figure it out. One notes it's weird for a dungeon to have this. The group suddenly clutches their heads as a voice echoes through the cube. The space shifts, announcing the start of the first trial, a test of raw strength. The countdown hits 10 as everyone clutches their heads. One panics, not knowing what's going on. Another says they feel sick, and the numbers drop fast. Tanaka yells for everyone to chill while the timer keeps dropping. He tells the group to pair up and get into fighting stance. The group panics as the countdown drops fast. One guy curses, another yells asking what's happening. Tanaka pushes forward, tense, telling everyone he has no idea what's going on, but they need to be ready. The countdown hits 1. The first trial, strength, starts. He stiffens, eyes wide, hand tightening on the blade. Alarms hit. First trial begins, strength. The squad raises weapons and snaps into formation. Tension spikes as something closes in. He freezes, confused. He steps into the chamber, and it's empty. He grips his blade and shouts, but no one answers. He whips around. Everyone's gone. Glitchy blocks rain down as the room flickers. He mutters that the golden cube warped them out before a clear, something that has never happened. He freezes as a white cube glitches into place, pixels raining down. He blurts, "A cube?" A clawed, twisted monster crawls out onto the floor, glitch-like particles trailing off it. No dialogue. A white cube finishes materializing. It pops. Something crawls out. A clawed, bug-eyed brute. The caption tags it, Hobgoblin. Usual E-class boss, the rookie wall. He stops in front of the hobgoblin, gripping the sword. The creature faces him, tense. He mutters, E-class raiders can handle this, but sweat runs down his cheek as he realizes the danger. He grips his sword tight as the timer hits 0. He sees the hobgoblin charging at him and clenches his teeth. Damn it, he realizes the creature is his trial. So this thing's my trial. The hobgoblin swings wildly, and he wonders if he can really beat it like this. He grips his sword tight, thinking fast. He already picked his path. If he backs off now, Nagi's done. He locks his stance and ends it with one word: win. He braces himself as the hobgoblin's swipe slams into the ground. He panics, thinking, one hit, and I'm done. So much pressure from just one swing. He dodges the hobgoblin's charge and swings back, saying, it's got a simple pattern. He keeps his distance from the hobgoblin's jaws, stepping back fast. In his head, he forces himself to stay calm, thinking that if he keeps moving, the attacks will be dodgeable. He remembers Satu, the blonde, charging and laughing while tearing through monsters. Watching that, he thinks that following Satu really did pay off. He keeps slipping around the hobgoblin's swings, focusing on one move at a time. He aims to get behind the creature and look for an opening. He locks on the hobgoblin's opening and brings the blade down fast. Acting the moment, he sees an opening. He freezes for a second as the hobgoblin's jaws snap toward him. He tries to block the hobgoblin's charge, but the monster's hit lands clean on his chest and sends him flying. He struggles to stand, gripping his sword while shaking. His breath is short and panicked, thinking he needs to get up now. The pressure hitting him feels crushing, and he realizes the monster used a skill, intimidation. He blocks the hobgoblin's bite with his sword, gritting his teeth as the creature pushes against him. The boy's sword flies out of his hand, spinning through the air and disappearing into the white void. He stumbles forward, loses balance, and hits the ground hard while the hobgoblin closes in. He stares at the slime-covered monster, out of options. It shows its teeth. One thought hits, he's dead. The monster grabs him by the shirt and lifts him. He thinks he never had a chance. An unranked guy clearing a cube was impossible. The creature looms over him, dripping and towering close. He lowers his head, defeated, thinking about Nagi and saying he can't keep his promise. Even then, he lets out a quick apology to Nagi, the boy about to get crushed, but he fights back and yells. He kicks the monster's jaw, cracks its teeth, and forces it wide open. He kneels beside his sister Nagi's bed, hiding his face in his hands. He swears he won't give up, says he'll fight to the very end and needs to apologize to her. He drenches the monster in fuel and sets it on fire. As it burns, he yells. He saved all of it just for this moment. He throws another bottle and charges in, shouting, "If that wasn't enough, then take it all." He lands another hit on the hobgoblin's face, smashing more of its mask. The hobgoblin staggers back, screaming in pain. He smashes the monster's face with another hit, the blow sinking deep. He drops low, steady, pulling the sword back with one hand. Behind him, the monster crashes into the floor from the impact of his strike. The announcement hits him. First trial, trial of strength. He grits his teeth and pushes through the impact. He collapses to the floor, gripping his sword as the cube shatters around him. A clear notice appears in front of him. The trial is marked as complete. He drops to the side, exhausted, trying to hold himself up with the sword. He lets out an "I did it" between coughs, then admits he pushed his body way too hard. Everything hurts. The kid drops to the ground, out of strength. He grips his sword with a shaky hand as everything fades to black. He's barely conscious. His vision blurs. He thinks he can't make out the words. A vague silhouette speaks, and he wonders what he's hearing. The kid drops unconscious, and the man in the suit rushes in, grabs him, and tells him to stay awake. He opens his eyes slowly. The man in the suit lets out a relieved breath and tells him he's safe. It's over. The guy with glasses calls out to Midori and tells her to handle the kid's injuries. He just lays there, exhausted, his whole body finally relaxing now that everything's over. Only one thing runs through his head. It's really over. He calls out for Nagi and tells himself, plain and simple, that her brother pulled it off. He sits on the ground, still shaky. The man in front of him steps closer and tells him he handled the first trial well. The protagonist tries to answer, saying his name, still out of breath. The man with glasses repeats it, checking if he heard right, then immediately asks about the monster he fought. The guy with glasses realizes it. The kid's unranked and still took down a hobgoblin. Amakusa studies Tanaka in silence, trying to piece it together. Tanaka's full of wounds, way too many for a simple hobgoblin. Amakusa, still worn out, looks at Tanaka and straight up asks what he fought. Tanaka answers calmly, saying he fought a high ogre. Amakusa freezes, shocked. A high ogre is something even A-class raiders struggle with alone. Amakusa's eyes widen. Tanaka explains that everyone was matched with something right at their limit. Amakusa realizes the trial picked targets for each person. Tanaka adds that it felt like they were being evaluated. A voice announces the result, 15 survivors. The first trial, strength, is officially over. Everyone reacts at once. Amakusa realizes who's missing. Faces he saw earlier gone. People who looked confident. People who were joking around before the test. A voice cuts through the air, announcing the next phase. The second trial, knowledge, begins immediately. Amakusa looks around and notices at first, the place shifts around them. One of the guys spots a strange mark on the floor, a giant hand symbol. They first notice the feet symbol on the right, then the eye in the center, and finally the torso on the left. Amakusa steps forward, eyeing the symbols. He wonders if these panels mean they're about to take some kind of quiz. A sudden flash erupts from the mural on the right. Amakusa snaps his head toward it, shocked by the burst of light. Everyone freezes as the angel statue shifts. The blonde guy shoves Amakusa aside and insults him. Amakusa staggers from the hit. Sada charges in first, yelling that whoever strikes first wins. He swings at the angel without hesitation, screaming for it to die. Sada smirks, confident his hit landed. The others cheer behind him, convinced he nailed it. The angel barely reacts. Tanaka yells for everyone to group up. The team rushes in and forms a tight formation, trying not to split as the statue starts moving again. Magic fails, and frustration hits the group. They look down at the strange panels covering the floor, realizing they're stuck fighting without spells. The angel steps forward, glowing. The group stares, tense, trying to figure out how they're supposed to clear the trial of knowledge. Amakusa suddenly loses strength. His arms go numb, his knees drop, and his weapons fall to the floor as he struggles to stay upright. Amakusa stares at his hands, panic rising. His arms won't respond at all. People around Amakusa start panicking too. Their bodies are locking up the same way. One of the fighters strains to move, but his arms won't respond. The angel steps right up to him, sword drawn, completely calm while he's frozen in place. The angel swings once. The man's head flies, and the group recoils in shock, unable to move or react. Tanaka yells for everyone to calm down, ordering the group to keep their distance from the angel. Panic spreads as people scream and stumble back. Amakusa suddenly collapses, his body giving out completely. Amakusa's legs freeze again. His hands work, but the rest of his body won't move, and panic hits him fast. People around Amakusa start losing control too, eyes burning, bodies shaking. Amakusa realizes he can stand and move his hands again. Tanaka shouts for everyone to run as the angel advances toward them. The group looks around, confused. The room goes dark, the angel is gone, and everyone's scattered without knowing where they ended up. Amakusa notices one of the guys stumbling blindly toward the eye panel. Amakusa quickly scans the room. The guy who went blind is standing on the eye panel. Amakusa spots the foot panel nearby and remembers the hand panel they saw earlier. The pieces start lining up in his head. Amakusa blurts out the idea, and Tanaka instantly gets it. Stepping on a panel shuts down the matching body part. People panic as the angel cuts them down. Someone grabs the blinded guy and drags him away, yelling that they'll die if they stay like that. Sata runs in panic, dodging the angel's swing by inches. He looks around wildly, desperate, with no idea where to escape. Sata suddenly clutches his chest, his face twisting in pain. Amakusa yells his name, shocked by how fast he's collapsing. Sata grabs his throat, choking out of nowhere. His eyes bulge and he can't breathe. Amakusa spots the torso panel right under Satu. It clicks instantly. Stepping on it shuts down the torso. His organs, his heart, they're stopping. Sata reaches out, choking and barely able to speak, begging for help. Amakusa hesitates. Sata begs, but all Amakusa remembers is the guy bullying him nonstop. He can't believe Sata's asking for help now. Amakusa clenches his teeth. Sata's dying, but he pushes the thought aside. He has to survive, for Nagi, no matter what. Amakusa thinks of Nagi, then looks away. He's sorry, but he refuses to save Satu. A memory of Nagi hits him hard, her voice calling him Amakusa high, telling him not to do something pathetic. Amakusa snaps, clenching his fist. There's no way he can run now. Amakusa throws himself forward, grabbing Satu with everything he's got. He swears he'll be the kind of brother Nagi can be proud of, no matter what. Satu pulls his hand back at the last second. Amakusa loses his balance and drops forward, straight to the ground. Amakusa gets shoved forward as Satu pulls his hand away, dropping him right in front of the angel. Satu shoves Amakusa straight at the angel, using him as bait without a second thought. Amakusa crashes right into the target and realizes just how filthy Satu really is. Amakusa steps onto the eye panel, and everything instantly turns pitch black. He notices something sliding across the floor, creeping toward him in the dark. Amakusa kneels in total darkness, trapped on the eye panel. He can't see anything, but he feels it. The angel is right in front of him. Amakusa feels the sword press against his shoulder. He freezes. One more second, and the angel will cut him down. Amakusa freaks out as the angel closes in. He panics, realizing he still has no idea how this trial of knowledge works, and he's running out of time. The angel charges. Tanaka jumps in, yelling and waving to bait it. He drags the angel's focus straight to him. Amakusa hears Tanaka shouting and snaps his head up, shocked that Tanaka's still fighting. Tanaka realizes the angel's locking onto them and yells for everyone to run. He forces a path, shouting at Amakusa and the others to move now. Amakusa freezes as the angel's sword touches his shoulder again. He realizes he's trapped all over. Amakusa notices the angel always taps the blade on its shoulder before attacking. He starts thinking that move isn't random. It might be a hint for the test. Amakusa freezes for a second, but forces his brain to keep working. Even with the blade on his neck, he pushes himself to think until the very last moment. Amakusa pieces it all together. The angel, the knowledge test, the strength test, the fights, the murals showing knights touched on the shoulder by the blade. He realizes it's not an attack, it's a ritual. The clue was there the whole time. Amakusa freezes for a sec, eyes wide, finally connecting everything. Amakusa drops to his knees with nowhere left to go, and the angel just taps the blade on his shoulder. No strike, just a weird gesture, like it's marking him. Amakusa freezes for a second, waiting for the blade, but the angel suddenly pulls back. Amakusa's already figured it out and yells to everyone. Kneeling is the answer to the trial of knowledge. He tells them all to copy the submissive stance before the angel attacks again. Amakusa pieces it all together. The first mural was the strength trial. The second was the knowledge trial. And the knight kneeling in front of the angel? That was the hint. Kneeling was a gamble, but it was the right answer. Amakusa struggles to hold the pose outside the eye zone. Tanaka shouts for him to watch the angel and move toward him, fast. Tanaka yells for Sada to swing around through the hand panel, because the torso zone shuts down breathing. The angel turns to Satu and walks straight at him. Sada just freezes. The sword lifts again, it's targeting him now. Sada screams and bolts, leaving Amakusa alone in the strike path. Sada crawls in pure panic, slamming the floor and crying not to die. He tries to run, but fear locks him up. He just screams that he doesn't want to be the chosen one while the angel closes in. The angel shows up behind him and cuts Sada down in the middle of his panic. He screams for help, curses everyone, but nobody moves. Amakusa sees Sada down and clenches his teeth. He's pissed. He couldn't save him. Amakusa drops to one knee in the dark zone again, hearing the angel slide around him. He realizes Tanaka's group must have reached safety, since the angel passed by him multiple times without attacking. Amakusa walks up to the angel, and the voice says there are 3 minutes left before the final trial. The soldiers rush Amakusa and grab him, celebrating like crazy. One of them hugs him tight, yelling that he saved everyone. Tanaka steps up beside him and lays it out straight. The guys are just saying thanks. Tanaka walks up to Amakusa with a tired smile, fixing his glasses. He thanks Amakusa straight up, saying they only survived that whole mess because of him. Tanaka freezes, staring at the floor, blaming himself. He says he failed as commander, that he wasn't fit to lead since so many people died under him. Amakusa and the others crowd around Tanaka, all smiling in relief. They straight up tell him he saved their skins. Amakusa leans in, thanking him like, "Dude, without you I was dead." 3 minutes are up. The next trial is about to hit. Amakusa and the others tense up as the announcement hits. The final trial begins now. Amakusa watches as the giant doors rumble open. A voice orders the survivors to split into groups of 3 and head inside. The final trial is waiting past that gate. Tanaka and the others split into groups. One guy says he'll stick with his own squad. Another agrees. Amakusa, stuck in the middle, ends up with Tanaka's team since they can't mix languages. Tanaka stops Amakusa before the teams split and straight up asks for his name. Amakusa freezes, not sure what to say. The soldier eyes Amakusa, confused by the name. He says he's never heard of this famous raider and straight up asks what Amakusa's rank is. Amakusa freezes for a second and blurts it out fast. He's unranked. The whole group just stares, totally confused. The group freaks out when they hear Amakusa is unranked. Amakusa just shuts his eyes, totally done with the chaos. Tanaka's friend looks at him like he's insane and blurts out that he pulled all that off with 0 abilities. The soldier says Amakusa was crazy for doing all that just for the reward. Then Tanaka steps in and adds that, even so, he saved everyone. Skill isn't everything. The girl grabs Amakusa's shoulder and calls him out. She reminds him he knew this dungeon could straight up kill people. Amakusa just freezes, taking it in. Hai looks down, totally cornered. The girl presses him, asking why he even accepted this suicidal job. Amakusa comes clean. He says he only jumped into this hell because he's got a little sister, and she's stuck with AMS. Amakusa drops the truth about his sister, and the whole squad freezes, totally caught off guard. Amakusa drops the truth fast. His sister's sickness got worse, hit phase 3, and the hospital bills are insane. The group hears about Amakusa's sister, and it hits them hard. They get quiet for a second, realizing the kid risked his life for her. The guy looks at a photo on his phone. He softens up for a sec, saying he hasn't seen his own family in forever. He turns to the soldiers and throws out a sharp attention, calling everyone to listen. The soldier gets hyped and says if they clear the final trial, he'll hook everyone up with a special break. She lays it out straight. If they clear the final trial, they can go back to their countries and be with their families. Basically, do whatever you want. Just finish this. Amakusa watches as the flashy guy suddenly turns all dramatic, saying fate brought them together and he wants to spend his holiday with her. Then he leans in, asking for her name. Midori introduces herself, all nervous, clinging to Tanaka's arm. She says her name is Tendo Midori and blurts out that one day, she's gonna be Tanaka Midori. The squad is cracking up, clowning Luis for striking out again. They hype Tanaka up, yelling that he better invite them to the wedding, and that now they've got even more reason to make it out alive. Midori barely talks for 10 minutes, and the dude's already breaking down. Amakusa relaxes for a second while everyone pats his head, and he realizes it's the first time he's actually laughed in a long while. Out of nowhere, the door starts opening, shutting everyone up instantly. The squad heads out fast. The big guy throws a casual salute, yelling they'll see each other out there. Tanaka lights up his finger and tells everyone to stay sharp. Amakusa says it's dark, and Midori agrees as they keep moving. Amakusa spots something hanging in the dark and calls out to Tanaka, who looks over immediately. Tanaka sparks a small flame and keeps walking with Midori and Amakusa. Amakusa, Tanaka, and Midori stare at the thing hanging there. When they get close, they realize it's a massive collar locked onto a chain. Amakusa turns around and freezes. A massive chunk of flesh and claws drops from the ceiling like a living nightmare. Amakusa and the group freeze as the room fills with countless monstrous figures. Tanaka tries to count them, but gives up. There are way too many. Amakusa realizes the worst. They might have to fight every single one of those things to move forward. Amakusa watches Tanaka charge in without a hint of fear and just mutters, shocked, "No way." Tanaka looks at the swarm and freezes. He straight up says they can't win this. Midori spots a door at the end of the corridor and freaks out, telling Amakusa and Issei to move now. They spot the exit, but it's far. With the monsters closing in, they know it only matters if they actually make it there. Midori grabs the bars and freezes. The path is blocked. One sacrifice. No sugarcoating. Someone has to die if the rest want to survive. Amakusa stiffens as the trial drops the rule. Pick a sacrifice. Tanaka sees the collar and gets it instantly. Someone's getting doomed that the panel hits again. The chosen one wears the collar. Midori sees the gate opening and drops the truth. The path only opens if someone gets sacrificed. Tanaka checks the bars and gets it right away. The rule is brutal. One person dies so the other two get out alive. Amakusa freezes, stunned. Midori just stares at the floor as the reality hits her. There's no workaround. The trial straight up demands a sacrifice. Tanaka snaps. He stares at the timer dropping and just loses it. He throws himself forward, yelling at the dungeon like it's a sick joke, refusing to accept that one of them has to die for the rest to move on. Tanaka snaps, yelling at the monster coming out of the water, like, what kind of hell test is this? Amakusa freezes, and the rest of the group starts freaking out, saying they're being played. Makusa looks over and sees Tanaka collapsing, totally at his limit. Amakusa looks at the chaos and gets it instantly. Someone's dying here. Tanaka's on the ground, done. The test is simple. One lives, one drops. Hai looks down and remembers the vibe from earlier. He and the others had just promised Tanaka, Alfred, and the whole squad that they'd all make it out alive. Amakusa remembers the promise they made, meeting Tanaka's squad outside. No way he's letting that end in death. Amakusa snaps. He looks around the arena and just loses it. The trial's rules are way too brutal. He clenches his fists, shaking, calling the whole thing cruel while trying to hold himself together. Amakusa says he doesn't want to die. Midori just stands there, frozen. Midori steps in behind Amakusa, a knife in her hand. Tanaka pulls Midori back and blocks her attack, yelling at her. Tanaka blocks Midori hard while she screams, "It's the only way." Amakusa just stares, stunned, as the two struggle. Tanaka drops, bleeding into Midori's arms. She freezes, realizing he got hurt because of her. Midori throws herself onto Tanaka, saying she knows it's wrong, but she just can't help it. Midori snaps, screaming that someone has to be picked. She points straight at Amakusa without blinking, saying she chooses him, even if he ends up hating her. Amakusa freezes, stunned, but blurts out that he wants to live with them, desperate not to die. Tanaka looks at Midori and says he's staying. He admits he pushed her too hard. He orders Midori to go with Amakusa. Midori cries, saying she can't. She can only move forward if Tanaka's with her. Tanaka pulls her in tight and asks her to understand, not as a vice leader, but as her husband. He just wants to protect her, even if it means sacrificing himself. Midori breaks down screaming Tanaka's name. Tanaka hugs her tight, shaking. Amakusa stares from the back, frozen. No answers, just panic. Amakusa freezes as an old memory hits him. The day of his parents' funeral, he and his little sister stand in front of the altar, staring at their parents' photos, surrounded by flowers and candles. It's the moment everything changed for them. He remembers the funeral. Him and his sister wrecked, crying over their parents. He just stared into nothing while she kept asking why they had to die. Amakusa stares at the altar for a moment, takes a deep breath, and just pulls his sister into a hug without saying a word. Amakusa flashes through the pain. Losing someone hurts like hell. He hates it. He sees Tanaka and Midori breaking down, then everyone else carrying the same weight. Tanaka and Midori freeze when they see Amakusa already wearing the collar. Amakusa looks at both of them, drops a quick sorry, grabs Tanaka's shoulder, and says he's the one staying. He's taking the hero's role now. Tanaka grabs Amakusa in a panic, shouting for him to take the collar off right now. He's shaking, refusing to accept that the kid chose to throw himself away like that. Tanaka yells that Amakusa's sister is waiting for him. Amakusa just says it's fine. He's the least valuable one here. Tanaka is stunned. Amakusa looks at Tanaka with full resolve. He admits his sister's waiting for him, which is exactly why he asks Tanaka for one last favor. Amakusa remembers Nagi, his little sister, calm and fragile in that hospital bed. He told everyone he joined the guild to pay her bills. But truth is, he never planned that far. Tanaka stands beside him, listening as Amakusa admits he barely knew what he was doing. All he cared about was keeping Nagi alive. Amakusa says it straight to Tanaka. He can't live gambling his life forever. Nagi's sickness has no cure, and the money won't last. He grabs Tanaka and drops it on him. Take care of Nagi's treatment for me. Amakusa looks at them and lets it all out with a broken smile. He apologizes, says he knows he's taking advantage of Tanaka's position, but still begs him to use any connection he has to help Nagi. Tanaka gives up. He looks at Amakusa and says quietly, I get it. Tanaka looks straight at Amakusa and gives his word. He'll take care of Nagi and find a cure for AMS. Amakusa takes a deep breath, accepts what's coming, and grips the collar. Tanaka holds Midori while they watch Amakusa walking away. The door behind him starts opening, and he just drops a quick sorry before heading in. He lifts his head and says, This is the best way, right, Nagi? Amakusa walks to the end of the hallway, saying he already did way more than anyone expected from an unranked nobody. He forces a smile and adds that he got lucky. He met Tanaka and made sure Nagi's treatment is set. Amakusa drops to the floor, accepting he's done for. He figures this is the end and hopes he's heading to heaven. He's sad he won't get to see Nagi again, and even jokes about coming back as a ghost. In the end, he admits he won't keep his promise, but he trusts Tanaka to tell Nagi his story. Amakusa breaks. Panic hits hard. He's shaking, crying, and all he can say is that he doesn't want to die. Amakusa freaks out, begging for help and pleading not to be left behind as the exit closes on him. Amakusa collapses, totally done, but then a bright flash hits him. Something drops into his hands, a key. He freezes, staring like, no way a key? Tanaka and Midori freak out as the collars tighten. They yank on them hard, barely able to breathe. Amakusa stares at them, stunned, holding the key. Amakusa holds the key, shaking. He watches Tanaka and Midori trapped while the voice announces the final judgment. It's the heart trial. He braces himself to face it alone. The three stare at the collars, realizing this one's all in the mind. Amakusa stares at the key, stunned. Tanaka and Midori realize the real trial is only starting now. Everything before this was just the warm-up. He realizes he can only save two people. Someone's gonna die. It's either him and one other, or both of them together. In the end, the life or death choice is all on him. Amakusa's mind tanks hard. Every time his thoughts spiral, that tiny bit of hope he was clinging to gets drowned out. Everything inside him mixes with this heavy, ugly darkness swallowing him from the inside out. Amakusa's mind snaps. It's a mess. Wanting to live, wanting to see Nagi again, hating what Midori did, doubting Tanaka, terrified of empty promises. Everything clashes at once. He can't even tell which version of himself is real anymore. Amakusa freezes. A dark presence leans in, whispering the easy, cowardly option, just end it. The skeletal figure feels like it's speaking straight into his mind, pushing to break whatever resolve he still has. Amakusa freezes as the voice digs into his head, pushing him toward the worst choice. It says no one will ever know, no one will judge him. He grips his head and shuts that inner voice up. He decides, dead serious. He's saving Tanaka and Midori, no matter the cost. The skull stares him down and spits poison, saying he's already done more than enough for Tanaka and Midori. Risking his life for them makes zero sense. The skull tries to mess with Amakusa, saying Tanaka and Midori should be the ones dying for him, since he already saved both of them before. Amakusa hesitates, but the skull thing goes straight for his weak spot. If he chooses Tanaka and Midori, he'll never see Nagi again. It mocks the promise Tanaka made, calling it empty. Amakusa clenches his teeth, torn hard between saving them or holding on to the only family he has left. Amakusa hesitates for a second as that voice pushes him, saying he should just grab the bag and run back to Nagi. Amakusa hesitates for a second when the voice taunts him, trying to plant doubt about Tanaka and Midori. The illusion grabs Amakusa and starts poisoning his mind. It says Tanaka and Midori are basically strangers he barely knows, that they've got no reason to keep any promises, and trusting them is just stupid. Amakusa hears the voice pushing him again, telling him it's pointless to trust anyone. It says no one else even knows about the deal he made here, and it wouldn't waste its life on something like that. Amakusa lowers his head, already doubting himself. The spirit pokes at him, saying he's selling himself short for no reason. It reminds him, dude, you leveled up in these trials. Amakusa just mutters that Tanaka and Midori are way stronger than him. Amakusa looks at the blonde guy, who admits he was actually impressed. Amakusa tried to save him in the last trial, even after all the crap he put him through. He looks at the fallen key. The skeleton says it's just the reward for his guts, for trying to die to save Tanaka and Midori. Nothing more. Amakusa breathes in, remembering the words he just heard. He stares at the key in his hand, gripping it tight. He tells himself that carrying other people's lives is part of the deal now. No more running. No more doubt. That he looks forward with a firmer expression. He already knows what he has to do. Amakusa stares at the skeleton guy as he explains that the heart trial is exactly that, keeping your heart steady and being ready to carry other people's lives. Amakusa reacts on instinct. He spins around and decks the spirit with a clean punch, shattering the illusion and clearing space for everyone. Amakusa lifts his hand and tosses the key to Tanaka. He keeps it straight. Nagi's in his hands now. Tanaka catches the key, stunned, already knowing it's all on him. Amakusa ignores the pissed-off spirit right behind him. The ghost mocks him, saying Amakusa's always been like this, always throwing himself in danger for other people. Amakusa remembers how those guys used to trash-talk him, but even then he always threw himself in front to help everyone, even while they treated him like a rankless nobody. The spirit screams in Amakusa's face, calling him weak, useless, and worthless, trying to break him down. Amakusa turns his back and just ignores the spirit screaming at him, walking off without even flinching. The thing keeps whining that he's playing the perfect hero, but Amakusa doesn't care at all. Amakusa looks back with a little smirk, all chill, like, yeah, I nailed it. The skeleton spirit breaks apart and disappears. Amakusa just stands there, silent. The trial ends. The voice confirms it. Amakusa stands his ground, calling out the trial's god. If the god wanted humans tearing each other apart, too bad. Amakusa says he's sticking to his own will and fighting to the end, no backing down. Amakusa looks up as the divine figure appears behind him, wings spread. She stares at him like she finally found her target. Amakusa pops into an empty space, totally lost. He tries to remember what happened and only gets flashes of monsters and the angel showing up. Confused, he even wonders if this might be heaven. Amakusa stands in the empty void while the divine voice tells him straight. He cleared the trial of the heart. Just like that, he passed. Amakusa hears he cleared the trial, but freezes the moment he realizes what that actually means. Amakusa hears the names of the ones who got disqualified and freezes. He realizes Alfred and the others are out. Amakusa realizes he's somewhere else, and the voice tells him he was sent to the divine chamber for clearing every trial. The divine voice drops the verdict. He gets the knight's emblem and the Eye of God power. Basically the ultimate upgrade. Amakusa senses someone there. He turns fast, grabs his weapon, and gets ready. A shadow steps out, and he freezes. No idea who just showed up. Amakusa steps into the chamber and freezes. Up on the throne sits a winged skeleton, towering over him like some dead king. One look is enough. That thing was never human. Amakusa looks up at the stone tablet. Weird symbols everywhere. He has no clue what it says, just knows it matters. He looks at the strange symbols. He knows he's never seen that writing before, but somehow his brain suddenly understands every word. Amakusa looks at the skeleton on the throne and reads the tablet. He squints, gets the basics, and sums it up. They lost. Amakusa reads the stone. It says the White One fell, they were overrun, and the world is about to belong to the enemy. They left everything behind for the next chosen ones, saying the princess used a forbidden ritual and sacrificed the god knights. And they asked that the gods I be passed on to someone worthy. He looks at the pedestal. The pyramid in the center shines bright, still but intense. The last words hit like a request for a golden soul to light up the world. Amakusa checks the pedestal and grabs the little statue and the pendant. He looks around, sees there's nothing else to mess with, and decides to just pick them up. Amakusa freezes when the skeleton suddenly speaks, begging him not to attack. The vibe shifts instantly. The terrifying undead on the throne turns out to be kind of pathetic and scared. He puts on the pendant and reads the name, Lancelot. He freezes, thinking of the traitor knight from the legends, not understanding why they gave that title to him. Amakusa puts on the pendant, and the second it clicks in place, his eyes twist into a spiral, total shock. Then he freaks out, grabs the pendant, and starts panicking, thinking he just slapped on some cursed thing without even thinking. The knight pops up out of nowhere and stops right in front of Amakusa. He just freezes, no reaction at all. Amakusa freezes as the figure steps out, a full-armored white knight, landing like a boss. Amakusa freezes as the scene around him glitches. A knight drops to one knee, calling the woman my lady, and checking if she's hurt. Amakusa sees a memory. The woman on the ground apologizes to Lancelot, saying he went through all that because he was her knight. Lancelot shows up in the memory, kneeling in front of the princess while monsters close in. She tries to apologize, but he doesn't care. To him, she saved his life. She tries to stop him, but he's already made up his mind. He's giving his whole life to her, no hesitation. The vision drops Amakusa into a massive battlefield. A whole sea of shadow monsters surges forward, thousands of them. In the center, the knight Lancelot stands guard over the princess and charges in without fear. Every strike he throws clears a path, steady, fearless, taking on everything alone. A flash goes off, the light blows up, and the cube slips out of the spirit's hand, landing right in front of Amakusa. Amakusa watches the knight collapse. He says he can't go on. This is his limit. And before fading away, he tells him that when the time comes, someone with strength, knowledge, and heart has to rise, someone complete. Lancelot starts fading away. He looks at Amakusa and says he's leaving everything to him, calling him the knight of this era. Then he disappears for good. Amakusa snaps out of the vision, still shaken, staring at his own hand like the weight of that memory's still stuck there. He tries to make sense of it. Whatever he just witnessed was way too big, like he touched the core of this whole world. Amakusa's still trying to make sense of it. The memories, the night, the princess, the chaos. Amakusa looks at the relic in his hand. The night from the vision faded away, leaving everything to him that he gets it. The cube and all those artifacts were handed straight to him. Amakusa raises the artifact, and the light blasts out. He gets it instantly, the thing activated. The symbol lights up hard, and his body reacts on its own. The god's eye starts transferring to him with no way to back out. The skeleton on the throne starts the final countdown as everything shakes. Amakusa feels his mind fading out. Amakusa opens his eyes and freezes. His vision shifts. What used to look gray suddenly turns insanely vibrant. The glow in his eyes says it all. The god's eye just activated and his whole world changes on the spot. And that's where we'll stop for today. Amakusa just unlocked a power that legit rewrites his entire reality. And trust me, things only get crazier from here. So if you want to keep following his journey, smash that like button, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe. It helps the channel a ton. And again, go buy the official manga. Support the creators. This series slaps way too hard to read anywhere else. See you in the next one.